Hello and welcome to another episode of Athletics for Life podcast. We're your hosts, Jeff and CD, and we interview interesting people in the world of sports. This year, we've had a large focus on interviewing athletic directors all around Asia. We've hit off quite a few different schools in different countries, and today's episode is no exception. So, Jeff, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest for today?
Yeah, so we're going all over Asia this year to learn from our colleagues, the ADs, the activities directors all over Asia. And next, we're going to Indonesia. We're going to Jakarta to talk to Jake Stockmann. He's the activities and athletics director at Jakarta Intercultural School. We met Jake through the NYAAA courses. We meet a lot of AD friends through the NYAAA courses, and we're very pleased to have him on the podcast today to hear his story, his philosophy, and to learn all about Indonesia and the school he's working at.
Let's head to Indonesia.
Let's go.
Welcome, Jake. Why don't we start off? Just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from and your background.
Okay, my name is Jake Stockmann. I'm currently the high school athletics coordinator at Jakarta Intercultural School. I am in my 8th year at that position, but I've been at the school for 14 years. And this is the only international school that I know. I was just a young fella in the States working with a friend who had done international school teaching. And he said, "You're the type they're looking for. Go have an adventure." And I did, and just picked me up. And I was an elementary school physical education teacher, coaching everything under the sun. And then I became a high school PE teacher. And this is my very first athletic director's job. And the school had faith in me. They hired me when I was very young. And I'm so grateful. That being said, this is also my last year at GIS. I've decided after 14 years, let's take another adventure. So that's my background.
That's awesome. 14 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, it's actually not so uncommon at GIS, however. So when I arrived, it almost seemed a little uncommon that people would leave after 3 years, 5 years. And that is because the school is great. Like, it's so welcoming. It's a wonderful community to join. But also you can't deny that the package is very nice. Professionally, you're taken care of. But also it's just very comfortable living in Indonesia. You can really enjoy your time here. And every year we have a tradition at the end of the year that the longest serving person that is leaving that school year gets to give the speech. And I'm telling you that out of all my 14 years, no one has given the speech that has been at GIS for less than 22 years. So there's always long-serving people, and the memories they share, just the evolution of the city and the school itself, they're great stories, and it's just a wonderful tradition. And GIS is full of amazing traditions like that, especially we're a pretty big school, and so you get a lot of people from different walks of life. So 14 years now is starting to feel I am in that level that is a bit older, I guess, or has been here longer. And that's just because the way the world's changing, the way it's easier to find new jobs and move around the world. And those creature comforts that you're looking for are all over the place now, instead of just at the big schools that can offer some of those nice things. So, 14 years, to me, it seems average. But when I look back on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, 14 years. How? Where'd the time go?
Yeah, I feel the same way. When I came to Mongolia, that was kind of the idea is, all right, let's just go on an adventure, see what happens. And then I've been here 9 years, and that feels like a long time.
My original plan was 3 years, 5 years tops, and I'm just going to go see what happens. And here I am. I'm still here.
Yeah, I thought I was going to do the 2 years and bounce and 2 years and bounce and just kind of see the world in 6-8 years and then go back home. And
9 years is a long stint too.
Yeah.
Jeff, how long have you been at your school?
Well, I'm here. This is my 5th year at the international school here. But I worked in China before here for 3 years. And the director there, but it was a boarding school. He said, Jeff, don't stay at your first school longer than 3 years. So I listened to him, but like see that you stay there. But I think it's all about where you land your first job, right, in the country. So yeah.
So the thing that I like to tell people is, yes, I've been at one place for this 14 years, and that might not have been my plan for all the schools that I wanted to visit and places I wanted to be. But as far as the career path went, I think I've done what was supposed to happen, where I coach a lot of things. I teach at multiple divisions, multiple age levels. And throughout that time, I was also involving myself in just volunteering and helping out in many places where I could learn how to run those events and how to be a part of our international conference. And so I think my career path followed everything in the proper timeline. So I'm very just fortunate that it was able to happen in one place. And I also think that was very helpful to me in getting the job in the first place, because I had 6 years basically to show who I was and my work ethic and just the culture I would try to bring or the personality I would bring to the position. And I think that helped me where they had faith. They had faith in me and they said, okay, we're going to grow you. You're one of us. We're going to give you a shot and let's see how you do.
Yeah, that makes a big difference too. If the school you're at invests in you and allows you those opportunities to grow and kind of follow your career path, if you're able to do those things at one school, then you don't have to go anywhere else.
Yeah,
right?
I'm very, very fortunate.
So now that you're moving on, do you have something ready for next year? Are you going somewhere specifically? And
I do.
What does that look like?
I do, and not too different, but very different.
Sure.
I am staying within our conference, and I have been offered the job of high school athletic director at International School of Kuala Lumpur. So I'm just puddle jumping. I'm just going to a place just over the way, and it's a school that I know, and they know me a little bit as well. And it was just an opportunity that I could not ignore. And I'm like, my wife and I, we just sit down and sometimes we look at each other and we're just like, did this really happen? Are we really this lucky that everything could fall into place in this way? And we are just grateful. And that gives me an energy that I just want to go back and already, I don't even know ISKL that well outside of our tournaments and the way I interact with their colleagues. But something developed in me at GIS where I just appreciated it and I was grateful and I wanted to give back to the community. And I've already got a sense of that because this life change we're going through is big. And my wife is Indonesian. And so I'm asking her to leave her home country. I'm making a move to an international school, different for the first time. And just the fact that we can go into something that's a little bit close, a little bit familiar, we are just so grateful for that opportunity. And already I'm just like, okay, I'm in. How can I show my gratitude?
Yeah, congratulations. Because I remember we were talking about it because we were scheduled before and you were busy with your whole process of interviews, right?
Yes, it happened very quickly. All the things I'm grateful for today are actually those things that were making me hesitate. Because I didn't think it would be new enough. I was really looking to shake things up. And not being part of the job search for a long time, I thought I knew what I was talking about. But then I had people who are very familiar with the school and people from ISKL that I already know. And they said, well, at least hear us out. We want to tell you what our school is like and we think you would be a good fit. And originally I was saying, no, I really am looking for that change. And then I sat down with the trusted colleague that I have. And I just said, okay, I can't be picky here. It's the era of COVID. I'm making this life change. Why am I not going to pay attention? So I asked somebody, I said, tell me about the school. And it was just a blessing that we, in this world of Zoom and the way we do our jobs as athletic directors, that I had those connections and I had people that spent some time telling me about it. And I realized at that time, like, don't say no to any opportunity. Just go explore it. Interviews can be a two-way street where you you can explore the school to see if it's really what you want, and they can explore you to see if they want you as well. Where I was approaching it as the schools are in control. They have the power, and they're going to dictate the questions and the answers that they want and the people that they want. And I just changed my mind. I just thought, no, I think I have some good things to offer. Being an athletic director is truly a lifestyle. Being at an international school, the school itself becomes the center of your life in some ways. And I just thought, no, this school sounds healthy. It sounds welcoming. It sounds like a place that I would want to be. I'm going to go represent myself in a certain way. And so once I had those first conversations with the people that said, this is a good school, you should at least give it a shot. Well, that led to one conversation, that led to one interview, and then that led to a panel interview, and then that led to speaking with the head of school. So three conversations / interviews, and man, it went fast. I think it was 2 weeks. That was it. Like in 2 weeks, and every time I kept feeling more and more comfortable. And every time that we did this, like it was a family decision on my end, where I was talking to my wife. We brought in her family as well. And we just said, hey, we're going to make this move. Do you endorse this? And everybody is so happy that we're just a 2-hour flight away now. And I didn't realize how comforting that would be for me either. It all just fits together. But boy, oh boy, it happened fast. And I think just the experience I've had of being an AD and watching people move around, and my school tends to move a lot of people out and a lot of people in each year. I've been able to have conversations, and I was kind of prepared for the speed, and I was prepared for the life change. And so I could kind of handle it. But even though when it was done, man, it was a sigh of relief. And again, my wife and I, we sit down, we're like, what just happened? Like, this is happening. Let's be happy. So yeah, that's it. That's been November. November was a crazy month.
That's awesome. And congratulations again.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. You mentioned how everything just kind of falls in place. I left one school here, the American School of Ulaanbaatar, and just it was time for me to find something different. And just with some colleagues I knew, I'm now at the British School of Ulaanbaatar, so just down the road. And this kind of similar thing where it was just because of some colleagues that I had worked with at tournaments and at things. When the position opened, he gave me a call and said, hey, you should apply. You should talk to our head. And, you know, same sort of thing where everything just kind of happens and it feels like everything's happening the way it's supposed to happen. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that means then I have a question for you.
Sure.
So I've been raised a GIST dragon. That's my international life. And all of a sudden I'm going across my conference, and now I'm going to be an ISKL Panther. My two questions are, one is funny, one is serious. But the first one is, have you ever cheered and yelled for the wrong team at your new school? Because I'm worried I'm going to do that. And number two is,
go ahead.
How are you received? How does it feel changing alliances in a way?
So I've never been caught cheering for the other team, although I have been happy with their success. You know, I've never been very vocal for the wrong team, but I've definitely congratulated them afterwards. You know, hey, so-and-so, good game. Or, you know, some of the guys that I've coached, like, hey, you played really well. Like you deserve that win. Or, you know, give them little pointers. I mean, heck, I even keep in contact with some of them, trying to get them recruited to the States, get them recruited college, of old guys that I coached. And then what was it like to change alliances? It's kind of fun, to be honest, because the school I'm at hasn't been particularly strong athletically. And the school that I was at, the American School, we tended to do very well. And so the machine was moving and kids were participating. And so it's kind of fun to then embrace the challenge of like, okay, I know what ASU is. I know what they can do. Now, what can I build here, and what can I help put in place so that way our teams can be successful and maybe compete with the American School and try to beat them. So yeah, that's the part that's been kind of fun. And of course, the kids, I've got a good relationship with a lot of kids. They'll come up and you know, oh, you're a traitor, and it's all in good fun. But you know, they'll give me a hard time. So
I imagine I'll get a little bit of that on my side too.
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I tell my athletes is, if you were, because they always have this mentality that the other guy's the enemy, that they're the bad guy, right? And they need to understand that if they were to all of a sudden move schools because of their parents' decision, okay, we're going to send you to that school instead, or we moved across town, and you all of a sudden went to that school, like you're looking at your friend group,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like those guys are going to be your best buds. And if any of one of them came to our school, they're going to be in your friend group and they're going to be one of your best buds. So, you know, just kind of keeping it all within perspective, I think helps, you know, and as an AD, I think we tend to do that pretty well. And so I think you'll do just fine, Jake, but best of luck.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very much looking forward to it.
But currently, you're still working at GIS, Jake. Can you talk a little bit more about your specific job? We talk with a lot of ADs, but all their jobs is a bit different, you know. Athletic director, their director for activities, of activities. Can you talk a little bit what's your specific role, the school, and maybe a little bit about your programs at GIS?
Yeah. So the video I watched to prepare myself for this was Sim Cook's interview. So Sim Cook was a PE teacher when I first arrived at GIS. So he was my colleague, and then he became the athletic director, and he took over after a long serving athletic director. And he and I have stayed in touch. We're very good friends. And in fact, for another student initiative that we're doing, I interviewed him on Zoom with one of my Dragon Council members just last week. And I asked him, I'm like, so how'd these guys get my name for this podcast? He's like, oh yeah, I told them. I'm like, okay. Well, I also watched his interview, and he describes the GIS programs very well. How we are structured per season, seasons 1, 2, 3, how the IASIS conference totally governs what we do, and how the number of teams we have, the way our hiring policies are, who our coaches are. That hasn't changed too much. We still follow pretty much that pattern. I've changed a few of our hiring policies to get some local coaches in our community sports programs involved. But for the most part, the newest edition that Sim created is still going. We're trying to perfect it. And we were moving ahead so much that there was a change at GIS 3 or 4 years ago, where I stopped being the high school athletics coordinator and I became what they called school-wide athletics coordinator. So instead of having the middle school coordinator and the high school coordinator running our own programs on different schedules, they created the middle school person became my assistant. And I also started to absorb the responsibilities of our aquatics program as well as our community sports program. And that was so that we could have one common mission, a common language, and a purpose that we were all working towards. So one thing supported the other. And almost immediately, COVID hit. And we had a year where no athletics were going on. And I took that year to really take a look at how things have been operating. And it was very easy to connect with the high school and middle school programs because there was no way we could survive previously. We had to work together. And so we went beyond just scheduling. We went into our budgeting as well. We went into prioritizing events so that our calendar could mix and match and really get the community involved in certain ways. We are still working on a program where we wanted to create a funneling system where our athletes go down into the middle school program and become assistant coaches. And that we think is one of the strongest connectors of one program to another. And so all the other things that we worked on was we went behind the scenes and we looked at our SOPs and we made sure that all 4 of our divisions in the athletics program would operate the same, that whatever message the administrator in charge was giving out would be a common language and everybody understood the hierarchy or the way that decisions were made. And we had it ready, and yet we still found ourselves waiting. We were just waiting for athletics to come back. And in the meantime, we were trying to run some things on our own, but we had this really big idea of how we could combine things. And we are not geniuses. We did not originate these ideas. We called up our friends. And during COVID, I mean, Zoom has taken off, connecting conferences that were never really talking before, taking classes, going to conferences. I mean, Jeff, that's how you and I met previously. Just started talking to people and saying, how do you do this? How do you envision this? What would you do? What would you do? And we got their information. We had those conversations. And then we said, this is how I think we should do it at GIS. Now, I'm back to just being the high school coordinator now, the athletics coordinator. And that is because of enrollment. That is because there is technically no athletics program going. We are almost in our second year of not having your traditional athletics programs running. And it is frustrating, it is humbling. But how we are functioning is, I've also been asked to help the PE department, and that has to do with our hiring and the enrollment process. So I'm teaching classes now, but I am managing how we do things with our athletic facilities. So I really applaud GIS, our school, for understanding that we have an amazing campus. It's very big, it's very beautiful. We have amazing facilities, and our community lives in a city where it is very difficult to find green space or safe space where you can go and focus on your health and your wellness. And so what our community has said is, well, we think at the end of the day, we no longer are a school. We are truly our community's activity center. And therefore, we think we can operate by different rules, which means if we can't do organized play, what we will do is we will offer all of our facilities for all age groups, all community members. As long as you have our GIS ID card, you're on our books, we're going to let you come in, and we're going to make things available so that you can take care of yourself during times that are tough. Now, we introduced that last year while we tried to do a combination of semi-organized student activities, and then coming into the second year of online school, where we're being more strict with what we offer for our student activities, but I think that will change very shortly in the second semester. But we have really jumped into opening up our campus. And I want to applaud our students. We have some students that don't even realize the quality of leadership that they have inside themselves. But a lot of kids came to me and raised their hand and said, I want to do this sport. I want to do this sport. I want to do that. And I talked to them and said, well, technically, we're not supposed to be doing it in the way that you understand. But if you want, I can advertise you and your program through our announcement system. I can give you the equipment that you need. I can even help you structure your plans and how you're going to run operations. But truly, this is going to have to be born from you, and you're going to have to nurture it. And so we have had a collection of sports, some stronger than others, are really getting weekly attendance from the kids. And I applaud the students for that. But here's what I will say. We're all getting tired of it. It's been a semester. We're at the semester break. And as we look into what potentially can happen in the second semester, I think we're all getting ready where it's like, okay, we did that. Now we're ready. Can we structure something? And I believe that's what we're going to do in the second semester. But guys, I want to be honest with you. It's been very difficult. As the athletics coordinator, it's been very difficult because I've just felt caged. I've felt lost. I felt like I didn't know what to do. And not only I'm trying to hide that so people can't see it, but I see it in the kids. We got some kids who really identify with sports, so they just need that release. And I just worry about it. We have a great community, and I've got a lot of parents contacting me and saying, what can we do? What can't we do? And we're all supportive. We're trying to, operate in the gray area. And I'm just really hopeful for the next semester because I think we all need it. I know I personally need it. I need a bit more focus in my life, and I need to feel that satisfaction of giving back to the community. But really, it's been a very tough time, and that the restrictions are coming from our country's government, and we're just trying to do our part.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. it's hard to be an athletic director when there's no athletics.
Very tough.
And when that's your identity and your title, it becomes, you're kind of questioning, what am I even doing? Why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of to piggyback off that though, what kind of things do you do to manage the job? Even, in the best of times, the AD job can be kind of a catch-all, right? And you're juggling so many things at the same time. So what do you do that to juggle or to manage all those things that you have going on?
Well, I did this very early on. Is I started to compartmentalize all the different parts of my job, and I started to think about all the things I had to do. And so I started with our sports seasons, and I was like, I'm going to make group one, season 1, season 2, season 3. I'm going to put them in their own categories, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the similarities and all the things that can become common, not only to our coaches, but to the parents, to the kids that are involved. And across the board, I started to investigate and find who has their own unique things that they're running, what are the common things. And I really built off of those because I understood that we had 11 varsity sports, boys and girls teams, junior varsity sports for all of them, sometimes freshman teams. I realized that sometimes in some cases, they knew their season, they knew their practice time, but they were just doing whatever they could do to get by. And I just kind of did an audit on all the programs. And what I was really looking for was a few easy similarities that I could say, oh, we all do that. And that's what's going to bring us together. But then I also discovered there are some really strong programs with their own unique traditions. And I kind of let them be grandfathered in to how we do things. But then building off of those two things, that built relationships with the coaches, with their programs. They understood that this is going to stay. These things are going to stay. But across the board, we need to start doing things together. So everybody knows what's happening. We become one athletics program. I started to develop that. So that's just our sports teams. But here at GIS and our bigger schools, I'm also part of the hiring of coaches, the helping develop the community sports program, being part of the operations team, working with risk management, the nurses, our facilities team, communications. And I started to compartmentalize all of those. And the first thing I did was calendar everything. Once I realized what my responsibilities were or what people were asking of me, I used Google Calendar. Thank you, Google. And I just put everything in. And I wasn't just doing it my first couple of years. I always put reminders the following year. I just put like, hey, put this in the calendar and just say this might happen. And I started to just make sure I saw things coming. And then I tried to make sense of it all. And I just thought, how do I divide my time? How do I delegate some of these jobs to the people that I have around me? And that also broadened our athletics program into the type of staff and the help we need. And it helped with those conversations that happened in the second semester about budgeting and planning and 3 to 5 year planning and how you want to grow and the quality of things that you need. So that's the strategy that I used, which was really, I just kind of sat back and watched for a while, and I used what I knew and I asked questions. I didn't realize it that I was doing a good thing as well by bringing the coaches in. I would talk to the coaches and say, hey, this is what I see. Is this your program in a nutshell? And what I was really doing was I was thinking, I'm the AD. I have to know this information, and then I have to make a decision. And I really naively approached it in that way, thinking, you're giving me information. Thank you. I'm now going to go make a decision. But what I didn't realize is by asking them to be part of the conversation, they were educating me. They also felt like they were part of the decision. And conversely, I realized it in that way too, that I was like, oh, you can be helpful by helping me make that decision and you get this buy-in. Again, I was young and hadn't done it before. So that was one of probably the earliest lessons that I learned was how to identify helpful people and ask them to do the things that they're going to buy into. It was a happy accident.
Yeah, that's it. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Jake, you mentioned in the interview, I think it was in school rubric, I think something that Nick DeForest wrote
Yeah.
on the AD job. It's not always known and viewed as a catch-all. I find it very interesting when you talk about Google Calendar stuff. How do you say no to certain things? Because I think it's key also in our job to say no. Because
Yeah.
So how do you do that? There's some tips.
Yes. You have everything documented, every single policy that you have. So when I received the program, I was given a 7-page parent-student guide to athletics. And I was given about a 5-page coach's handbook. It is now, the parent-student handbook is now, if I'm not mistaken, 40 pages. And the coach's handbook, which during COVID was that thing I wanted to keep getting done. I haven't actually published the new one yet, but I think I took it from 5 pages and it's up to 12. And it's not that I want you to study. It's not that I want you to live and breathe everything in it, but I have all the answers there. So if I need to say no, I can say no for 2 reasons. One, it's not allowed. Here it is. It's written here. And it's not part of our system and how we do things. But also number 2, that handbook can show how you're just one person, or you can show your team. And it's like, I think what you're doing is great. I see where it could fit in. I see how it could even work, but I'm letting you know that we don't have the resources. And I just have to ask you to understand that. But I'm going to put it on the back burner and I'm going to think about it. And almost 100% of the time, that second answer where I tell people, I want you to see our resources and what we can have and what we can't. Almost 100% of the time, those people come back and say, I'll do it. And I ask them and I say, are you sure you're not taking on too much? Because I want to tell you how I run an event, how you plan, how you do everything. And they're like, nope, Jake, I am passionate about this. I believe in it. It's good for this group of kids. And then we realize that it's good for the program too. And it's good to have other people involved. And I try to reward them as best I can, give them a nice little gift, definitely give them the recognition that they deserve amongst the peers. But also that helps in those conversations when you're talking to your bosses, when you say, I need more, I want to do more. But in order to do that, I need more people, I need more resources. And I want to show you this wonderful thing that the community enjoys. And it came from one person, and we can't rely on that one person unless we support it. So I think if you have everything documented, you have a better chance at saying no, other than people are going to challenge you. If it looks like you're trying to recall the information, they're going to think you're making it up on the spot, and you lose credibility. But really, I have a way that I tell people. I say no quite regularly, but I make sure that I preface it with, I'm only telling you no so that you come back to me with another way. Because my way of telling you no is simply saying, I know the book, I know the rules. I'm telling you no, it won't work that way. But if you get creative, come back and ask me again, come back and ask me again. And if I ever get to a point where I've so often looked somebody in the eyes and said, you know what, Jeff? I can't say no anymore. I think that means it's a yes. Let's go. And then we make it happen.
Yeah, I like too how you mentioned not having to rely on that one person. And so when you document something, when you've got it down, this is how we do it, this is how it's done, then it no longer relies on that one person. So, you're moving on at the end of this year. And I'm sure you've had thoughts of like, okay, what's going to happen to this program once I'm gone? And, when you have everything documented, then I imagine it's probably a sigh of relief. Like, okay, the ship's going its course. The next person's going to be, can just kind of take the wheel and then just adjust accordingly. How has that been for you?
I hope so. But also, here's the one thing that I realized that I've learned in my career as an athletic director. The true passion and personality of the athletic director is very important. So I don't want to present all the information and the things that I've done as the roadmap, the one way, the things you got to do. What I actually want to do is I want to present to the person and say, here's a couple things that you just can't change. Your calendar, the way you schedule, the facilities and how they're used, and also the internal staff at our school, like you can't change that. But when I tell you that we ran our sports seasons in this way, and we would do a local tournament on this week prior to our midseason exchange, and we would do our Naga night, which is the last weekend before we traveled, and it's the big community event. I'm just letting them know that that's there, and they get to interpret that the way they want, because if you're an athletic director and you're just a puppet trying to do somebody else's job, you're going to get lost. You're going to get lost in it. And I would much rather say, these are the things that I thought were good. Some of them traditions, but you get to do them. You get to build on them. What are you bringing? Because you got to build culture. And I'm just going to encourage them to truly be themselves. And if they were to look at me and say, that was really nice while you were here, but things have changed and we're not doing it anymore, I'll be like, great, like, go ahead. What are you replacing it with? Like, are you replacing it, or what's your purpose? And what I'm really discovering is, who are you? And like, I love this place. I love JIS. It took very good care of me. And I'm happy that I get to continue to work with it. And I really wish the next person in line the best of luck, but put your stamp on it. Like, my stamp was, I really brought things together. I think I cleaned up the way that we did things. And now our school, especially with COVID, kind of shutting things down, the culture can really be rebuilt. Because right now the culture is a little bit lost, where people are like, what is IASIS? And I have to practice all the time, and there's tryouts, and what does it mean to represent the athletics program? And yeah, build it up new. Maybe it's time to have something new.
Yeah, those are some great tips. And I recently also realized that you bring your own thing to the programs, right? But the programs, I am the AD, that's just a role here. So documenting everything, and next person coming in can only make it better, hopefully, based on what you've done. And they bring their own unique things into the program. So yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
The best thing I can do for the person who's going to replace me is I can give them the information that's going to save them time and save them headaches. That's the best thing I can do, and just say, don't waste your time with this. You can't beat it. Just go with it. But if you want to get creative, you got all this time. But right now, here's the answers. Trust me, it's the only answer. Just go with it.
Yeah, definitely. Jake, can we talk a little bit about some kind of PD you're doing for yourself to improve yourself? We met through the NYAAA courses. What are some things you're doing to improve yourself and to bring that back to your programs?
Sure. Well, right now, as we're talking, the National Athletic Directors Conference is happening in Denver. And I was contacting them saying, I know you're in person, but are you doing an online thing? It's how easy is it to put a live stream camera up? And they said, no. They just said, we don't have this online version happening. And so I'm a little bit miffed at that, where I was like, shoot, I just like to, it's great being online. Last year it was great because you have your camera on, you're listening, you're still doing things in your own house. And then you never know that thing that's going to stick, where you're going to hear it and you're like, I can do that, or I should do that. And I was really hoping for that opportunity. I would say lately I've been spending a lot of time on NFHS Learn, and that is all of the free coaching courses. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. Because I've seen that you can get certifications if so many of your coaches have done the coach certification 1 or coach certification 2. And I am struggling with how I can ask my coaches that are already high-level teachers to do this if it's not a passion. So I haven't figured out how I can bring that back. But those are the types of things that I simply push out to the coaches, and I just suggest it. Sometimes I have conversations with our coaches and say, would you do this? Would you not? On a personal level, I just got my CIAA, Certified International Athletic Administration, from the NIAAA. I just got that over the summer. I'm thinking about getting the CMAA. But the truth is, I need to finish my master's. They hired me so early in my career that I didn't even have my master's. And I was in this cohort where I was doing summer programs. And then they switched it to completely online. And then the job started. And man, I got in way over my head. And I went to my bosses and I said, do you mind if I put this on hold for a while? And they said, sure. And I put it on hold. Like every year I take maybe one class, two classes, whenever I can fit it in strategically. Like I just completed another course this summer, and I think I have 4 more to go. So I'm really close. But the irony is I need the master's to get the job I already have. And the job I already have is getting in the way of me completing my master's. So I make sure I'm very transparent with all of my superiors. And I tell them, I'm like, hey, do I really need to devote time to this? And they're like, you're doing fine. Take care of it when you need. But as far as bringing other stuff back to school, 100%. The best PD I have is that free PD of working with the other athletic directors in my conference. And now that has expanded because of Zoom and COVID, because now I can talk to so many people and it's just easier to talk to them. And we've had some turnover of our athletic directors recently in the IASIS conference. And I've been there long enough where it's almost like I get to see the next generation and now I'm part of it. And I really like the fresh ideas that people are bringing in. Like we got some people who are asking questions, why? Why do you do that? And sometimes the simple answer is because it works and we know it's going to work. And then sometimes it's like, you know what? Now is the time to ask that question. And that is the best PD where I can sit and ask, what are you doing at your school and why? I know that I sat in on a few Zoom coaches meetings at Bangkok. I talked to the Singapore community sports program and how they run their operations. I talked to one of the aquatics coordinators. I had my answers that I thought I needed to do here at GIST, but I just wanted to compare it. And now I'm bringing that stuff back and I'm kind of positioning people in certain places, or I'm letting our coaching staff and our students know, well, this is what happens at other schools. And so we're going to start to do things in our way too. But I would say that's probably where I'm most influenced. But second, the other most influential thing is I've gotten to a level, just because I've been at GIST for so long, that I've really been making connections with our parents. And before, I used to kind of push them away when they came with ideas. And I just thought, no. We have our resources. We're competing very strongly at IASIS. We have our schedule. I don't need those new things. But then things have changed. Our demographics at the school has changed. The city has changed. And I've really started to work with our community sports program and those parents. And man, in a city like Jakarta, where these parents have connections to referee associations, other sports clubs, and just kind of other sporting organizations that I didn't know were out there. I'm asking our parents for help, and they are giving me contacts. They're bringing sports teams on. I've been having meetings with some people that are very interested in starting. I call them the Jakarta Invitational Series tournaments for all of our sports, so that our varsity teams can kind of have a league to play in. And that's been the second thing I've brought to GIST is our kids are playing in club sports. I'm bringing those clubs in. I'm talking to those coaches. I'm getting those coaches part of our community sports program. I'm introducing our varsity and JV coaches to those other coaches and those other organizers, so that they on their own can start setting up relationships and building things. So I would say just the free resources that are built on relationships have been the best thing. As far as the academic and the classes and the PDs and things that I take, I don't bring as much of that home. A lot of that is just personal. I'm making sure that I'm doing my things at a certain level. I do know that I would like to explore that coaches certification more, because I do think I have a group of coaches that would be interested in having that documentation.
Yeah, that's always hard to get the coaches to buy into something new. And how do you move forward with that and present it in a way that's beneficial for them, but also you get what you're wanting out of it as well. It's just working with people, right? That's the challenge.
Yeah. And the number one thing that I realize from our coaches is they just want clear answers. They just want to know, okay, what's expected of me? What's next? What's going to be there? How do I rely on you? And I realize if I can make that so simple, then they are going to thrive. They're going to allow their personalities to shine, their strengths to come to the forefront. And I learn as much from them just by watching as involving myself.
Yeah, I do know. Sorry, Jake. Sorry, CD. I do know that Nick DeForest and American School of Vienna were the first school to get that certification outside of the US. So maybe check with him. And I've tried that too. I have NFHS now in my budget, but I cannot force the coaches to do it. So if they want to, I'm very happy. But it's finding a way to not forcing them, but tell them, hey, this is important, please do that. And there's money for it now. So that's just to use it, right?
Yeah, our school has kind of a big pot for professional development. And what I'm allowed to tell them now is the same way you apply for professional development for whatever you're doing in the classroom, you can now apply for athletics as well.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense, just to have that available to your coaches. We're kind of getting towards the end of the time. We've been chatting with you for a while. We've used up quite a bit of your weekend. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now that you're moving on and you're kind of looking back at your time at JIS, what would you say you're most proud of? What's something you've accomplished that you kind of gives you that sense of satisfaction, knowing, okay, I did that, I can move on and be happy that I accomplished, that thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I had a couple goals when I came in, and this is my personal opinion. I did not like the way that JIS was viewed in the conference. I thought we were viewed as kind of a ragtag group that when you came to our school and visited, maybe things weren't always run like a tight ship. And so I take pride in the IASIS tournaments, whether it's the mid-season smaller exchanges or the big IASIS tournaments that we run, that when you come to JIS, you're going to get high quality stuff. And that is our opening and closing ceremonies. That is the way that we create rest areas for our athletes and our parents that are visitors, the way that you can receive all of your communications and documentation. But really, when you're on campus, and we have a big campus, how you can travel between all the sports venues, but things are going to be run, and things are going to be run very well and clear and to a T. And when you come to JIS, you're going to expect a high-end tournament. And I really, really appreciate that, because on the back end, the thing you don't see is I brought our facilities department into that planning, and just the way that they felt that they were part of the athletics program, the booster club as well. We all felt like we were part of a team, and we built those relationships. So I'm really, really proud with how JIS is now holding its own in the IASIS conference. And the IASIS conference is stellar. It's amazing. And I really feel like we're truly doing our part. Now, as far as the internal stuff, I just recently had this question actually in an interview, like the things that I'm most proud of. And I wish I had better initiatives to talk about. I have a lot of things that I've tried to get off the ground and things that are going well. But to say they're just athletics things I can't say that in truth, because we run a co-curricular program where there's my counterpart, there's an activities coordinator. We have now brought in a service coordinator. So we three are the co-curriculars, and I'm really proud that the students are starting to recognize that all three of us work together, we help each other, we support each other, and the way we do things are all the same. And I really think that's going to help the school very well. But what I would like to talk about is, it's hard to give specifics. the things that I'm most proud about is when I've seen a coach do something, or a student do something, or a parent get involved where they get an accomplishment or recognition through sports that they didn't know was possible at the start. And a lot of times it's dumb luck, things fall into place. But when I know that those things have happened because of athletics, and my part in that might be a simple conversation, opening their eyes, doing something behind the scenes that kind of makes a connection for them, or simply running a clean program where they get out of it what they were looking for. I just really like the natural order of things. And when the people are happy, they got something that they didn't realize, and they're going to carry that. That becomes now part of their identity or their success story at GIS. That stuff is so meaningful to me.
It's all about the experiences, right? It's all about helping these kids getting these experiences. And you've shared already tons of tips and things that we always take away. We learn so much from these interviews. It's you've shared so much. Are there any other tips you would say these are the most important tips for any new ADs, upcoming ADs, and maybe moving on to a new school like you're doing?
Yeah. I would say the thing that I still struggle with the most is talking to my bosses. And that's the advice that I would like to give to athletic directors, because I am the type, like I just told you, I like to compartmentalize things. I like to create the systems, and I like to know the order of stuff because our jobs are crazy. But I also feel that way in a managerial structure, that I operate better when I know the rules. Well, the one thing I had to learn, and I'm still learning, is sometimes you got to break the rules. And you got to go get in front of your bosses, and you have to advocate for your programs to get more, to do more. And my advice to people is, first, don't be afraid, because the second piece of advice is going to help you with that. You've got to be yourself. When you go there, take yourself out of the managerial structure and just say, I am Jake, or I am Jeff, or I am Craig, and I am going to represent that my heart is in this job. That is why you hired me. And so I'm going to speak to you as the individual and say, I think we need these things. And you just put it out there. Don't think of those conversations as adversarial or that you have to follow a script for the job. Just say, I believe in this, and all I want you to do is hear me. And that is the best advice. The hardest thing, though, is sending that email and asking for that advice, stepping in that door and sitting down and having that conversation. But if you're doing your job as the individual that you are, and you're following your calling, that will always guide you. Truth will always be the best way. And that's the advice I want to give young ADs. You got to just keep doing more. There's capacity for more. You're going to need people. You're going to need money. You're going to need resources. And you have to be the one that goes and asks for it. And if you believe in it, you got to let that come out when you have that conversation.
Yeah, that's a perfect place to end it. Because those conversations are hard, and we need this. This would really make a difference for X, Y, and Z program. And they can be difficult conversations to have at times. So.
Yeah. To simplify it, I always tell my superiors when I'm asking for something, I'm not asking for yes or no. I'm just asking for you to hear me. That's it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, Jake, we just want to thank you for giving us so much of your time and insights. We wish you the best of luck in your new role, and to you and your family, and hopefully everything goes smooth.
Thank you. And guys, you're doing a good thing here, getting your message out. I wish you all the best with this podcast. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on, and we'll stay in touch, and wishing you all the best.
Okay, take care, guys.
See ya. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Well, we just sat down with Jake Stockmann at the Jakarta Intercultural School. Great interview. It was great to sit down and talk with Jake and just hear what he has to say. Jeff and I, just moments before we hit the record button, we're just like, okay, that's one we're going to have to sit back and watch again with the notepad and just, take some notes on. Just overall really good interview. he seems like he's figured out how to work with people, and so much of the athletic director's job is working with people. When he said, I have to say no a lot, but I try to say it in a way that they're going to come back to me with a better, more creative idea, and in a way that makes more work for yourself. But at the end, you're going to get a better, more creative idea that's going to help your program, or even when he talked about parents, it's really easy to just say like, okay, I communicate with the parents, I bring the parents in for evenings or whatever, but I kind of how he's saying he kept the parents at bay, we don't need that. We've got this running, we're doing fine. And then actually to start to be more accepting of parents and their ideas. For me, what really stood out is how much Jake has just jumped into, okay, I have to work with people, and that's what's going to make my program successful.
Yeah, definitely. And okay, last podcast, you revealed that we have a secret topic list CD, with Kathy, and I think we only discussed like 4 or 5 topics today because it was just, so much to share, so much to list. I was just listening the whole time to Jake. He had so much to share. You can see he's been in the role a while, very methodical about, hey, he's leaving now, and you can see he really planned it well. I liked especially the tips he gave for upcoming young and new AD, but even, people like us, like how to talk with your superiors, with the administration. I found it very valuable. Go in there and show them the passion that you have, why you need those kind of things. And that's hard. I think that's hard for everyone to go in there and sit down with them and tell them why you need certain things, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's hard.
Yeah. It's probably one of the harder parts of the job is just, having to navigate admin and how you can get what's needed for your program and make sure your program, has all the tools that it needs to be successful. Yeah. One thing that also stood out for me was, when he talked about leaving, and, a lot of us, we've mentioned on other shows, we have the idea of, okay, let's just leave it better than you found it. Mm-hmm. And he kind of had a little bit different perspective of, I want the next guy to make it his own or her own. Yeah. Right. Whoever comes in here, here's the tools, here's everything that's in place. Here's some tips so you won't pull your hair out, but do with it what you want, because it's going to be your baby now. So
exactly.
There's kind of an interesting perspective on the AD role. And one
and then having that handbook ready, right? Have those files ready. And then someone else, for you, it's you have your handbook and you make it red, and someone else has the handbook and makes it blue, but it's a little bit different, but the basics are the same. So I think it's great if we can help our colleagues and friends in all the AD jobs to have those basics in place. When you leave, someone else can just walk in there and, make it their own, make it even better. And that's what we try to do. Someone else should walk in and make it better.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So we want to thank Jake for being on the podcast today. I'm sure we're going to see more of him in the future, NY courses, and, we're not far away. We wish him all the best in Kuala Lumpur for the move for next year. It was a pleasure talking to you today, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks again, Jake, and thanks to those of you who are listening, wherever you're listening to our stuff. We definitely appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe even share it with an athletic director near you. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.